Hey everyone, it's Jen Saunders Haynes, also known as the Catering Queen, and I have got a story for you. We used to do a little podcast called The Queen's Playbook, and this is going to be a little bit like that, but different. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you know that I posted a story just recently about my experience putting together a case study that looked more like a strategy than an interview. So, before we get into the slides today, I want to set the scene. This playbook started as a leadership case study, as I said, for a fictional fast casual brand. So, nothing in this is real, it is all fake, but the strategy behind it and the reality is very real. I've spent years inside enterprise brands watching catering grow and then watching it break. And it wasn't because the food wasn't good and it wasn't because the demand wasn't there. It was usually because catering was treated like a side channel instead of an actual business or a line item. And honestly, most brands don't have someone whose full time job is actually thinking about this end to end, or they have teams that are not cross functionally aligned in making this thing go. So, what you're about to see isn't a list of launches or promotions. This is not a catering sales playbook because I am not a catering sales manager. It's a blueprint for how catering actually scales without burning out teams or eroding margins. Let's start with where this business actually is. So here's the starting point. The brand has built strong regional presence. They have scratch made food, loyal guests, and a growing off premises demand. Great. On the surface, things look really healthy, but when you zoom in on catering, it starts to tell a different story. Today, catering represents just 6.5% of total sales, and that's despite a strong average order value of about $300 and a healthy net promoter score of 74. They also have a pretty steady marketplace demand. That tells us something really important. The problem really isn't demand, the problem is structure. There are four core challenges that could be holding catering back. First, long lead times. When orders require a full day of notice, you miss the moments that actually matter most, especially to a B2B guest. Second, heavy marketplace reliance. Yes, it brings volume, great, but it also brings margin pressure and a fractured guest relationship because you don't actually own the data. Third, inconsistent fulfillment, especially when delivery ownership isn't clearly defined. And I know there is a ton of chatter about delivery right now. And finally, limited internal alignment. I'm going to repeat that one because it's big. Limited or non existent internal alignment, which usually means catering lives in the cracks between teams instead of having a clear owner, or you might have an owner, but maybe you don't have cross functional leadership buy in. And yet, the opportunity is really clear. There's a path to doubling catering contribution to 12% by future year 27, shifting more demand into direct, higher margin channels like first party, and building a repeatable catering engine that actually supports expansion. So the question isn't whether catering can grow because catering can almost always grow. It's whether anyone is actually accountable and responsible for making it work and if your teams are willing to do it. That's where focus actually matters. Because catering usually doesn't fail from a lack of ideas. We all have a ton of ideas. It fails from lack of ownership. The path forward centers on three power pillars. First, demand acceleration. And I just don't mean more orders, but I mean the right kind of orders. The orders that protect margins, shorten prep cycles, and don't exhaust teams. Second, digital and delivery growth. If first party ordering isn't easier than marketplace, why would guests ever want to switch? Third, consistent, disciplined execution. And yes, this means delivery. This is the part that requires an actual leader, not just a side project. Everything in this playbook ladders back to these three power pillars. Also, on this project canvas, it's kind of the lens for the entire strategy. So we start with a positioning statement: bold flavor for this brand, a great value, made easy for groups through simple ordering and dependable delivery. From there, we move on to the key initiatives: driving demand through value, convenience, and variety, accelerating growth through digital and delivery, and building consistency through playbooks, marketing, and KPIs. Supporting all of this are playbooks, checklists, training, support, and alignment. This is the unsexy stuff that usually gets split across 5 teams and not fully owned by anybody. And that's exactly why catering struggles to scale. When these pieces come together, the impact is real. So, in the lower right hand corner, you see lead times start to come down, guest satisfaction move towards a 4.5 or maybe a 5 on experience. Marketplace cannibalization starts to decrease. Teams are aligned, conversations are happening internally, and digital conversion improves because ordering finally feels easy. But here's the real unlock: frameworks don't scale businesses. This deck won't make you successful. People do. And someone at your brand has to wake up every single day responsible for making this system work. And all of your cross functional teams have to be there to support it. So, before we can talk about menus or promotions or marketing calendars or all the pretty stuff, there's one bigger question we have to answer first. What do we actually want this catering program to be known for? And who owns that vision? That's where this program begins to come to life, and that is what we'll tackle next. So, stick with me over the next couple of weeks. We're going to go through this playbook section by section. Catch you next time. It's the Catering Queen.